Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Java Classified. In this video, I will create a REST endpoints using Spring Boot application and I will expose a get endpoint in this application and we will get the data from the application. In this application, we will not use any databases. We have create a application without using databases. So for creating the Spring Boot application, we need to go Spring Initializer. So I have already opened the Chrome browser. In the Chrome browser, I'm going to search Spring Initializer. Now, in the Spring Initializer, we will select the project type as a Maven and language as a Java because we will create the Spring Boot application in the Java version. So, in the Spring Boot version, we need to select the appropriate version. So, right now I'm going to select the Spring Boot version as a 4.0 snapshot. In project metadata, we need to define the group ID. So I'm going to define group ID as a com.text.rest. In artifact, we are going to define the REST API. Now we are going to define description as a REST API project for Spring Boot. And we are also defining the package name as a package name as a com.text.rest.api. Selecting the packaging as a jar and selecting the Java version as a 21 right now. And here le- left hand side I have already selected the project as a Maven, language as a Java and Spring Boot version as well. In the right hand side there is a button add dependency. In the add dependency we will add web Spring Web dependency tool. So I have added only one dependency is Spring Web right now because we will create only one endpoint with a hard coded response data in that API. So I'm going to click the generate button for creating the application. So let's click the generate button. Now it is downloaded. After downloaded this, we need to copy this application to our original working directory. So previous video I have already created the one one directory as a interview program. So I'm going to C drive. In here you will see interview programs folder. In interview programs folder I'm going to copy this application. Now I'm going to our IntelliJ. In IntelliJ we will check this REST API application. So I'm going to our Spring Boot IntelliJ. You will see this application is also appear in our IntelliJ application IntelliJ ID. So I'm going to pom.xml file. In here it is opening now. Let's right click here in the pom.xml file. It's taking some time and add as a Maven projects. Click this one. Now all the dependencies will be downloaded. Let's wait until all the dependencies will not downloaded. Once all the dependencies will download, then we will add a package as a controller. In this package, we will create a REST endpoints. That endpoints we will add as a get method. So let's wait until all the dependencies will not download. Now all the dependencies has been downloaded. So let's go to our src folder, REST API src folder. In here you can see main folder, Java folder. In Java folders there is a package com.text.rest.api. In that API package you will see a one application appear. REST API application. In here, you just right click and run as a REST API application. Then our application will run. This is the way to run our Spring Boot application. Now let's go to our package. In our package, we are clicking clicking right, and after clicking right, you need to go package. In package, we are going to define as a controller package. In controller package, we are just 1 minute. I have added the wrong name of controller, so I'm going to renaming it controller. Now refactor it. In here, I'm going to define the Java class like REST get REST API get REST API controller. In here, we need to define in the class level as a REST controller if we are going to create a REST endpoint. So I'm going to add at the rate REST controller in the class level, and in here we are going to define the method as a response entity. Response entity in here we are going to define as a string response. Now get response. This is a dummy response we will use in here as a dummy response. So I'm going to define return new response entity. In here we are going to define hello. This is the dummy response for get API. Now here we need to define HTTP status code as well. So I'm going to define HTTP status code dot just 1 minute. I have imported the wrong HTTP status. So here HTTP status dot accepted, or we are going to define accepted just 1 minute. I'm going to define the response as a status code dot where is HTTP status dot. Right now we are going to add as a accepted and comma. What happened here? HTTP count resolved. So I'm going to here what type of here HTTP status and body and then HTTP status. I have added the wrong response in here. So I'm going to remove first one HTTP status code, and we need to define this one in the last. First we need to add as a string. So here we are going to define HTTP status code dot sorry HTTP status dot OK. This will give 200 response if API giving the correct response. Now we are going to define as a get mapping in here. In here we need to define the REST endpoint. So I'm going to define get API. Now I am stopping the application and we will run this application. Here you will see in resource folder there is application property YAML file. In here you need to define server port as well based on our requirement. If your 808 port is busy to somewhere, so I'm going to define server dot port. Here going to define 9090. Now let's run this application by clicking by clicking play button. Now let's wait until this application is not up. In the console you will see which port in this application is running. You can see here this application is running 9090 port. So in the controller layer, we have defined the API endpoint get slash API. So I'm going to Chrome browser here, typing HTTP colon localhost 9090 slash get slash API. Then it will give our response which I have defined. So this is the our response which I have defined in the controller get APIs. So for creating the REST endpoint, you need to add the rate REST controller on the class label of the controller and define the mapping like get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping based on our business requirement. So in this video, I have just show you how to create a REST endpoint with dummy data in Spring Boot application. So thank you for watching my video. If you like my video, you can subscribe my channel so that you can get the further further update. Thank you.